Welcome to the channel that talks about great men. Great men who are the brains behind the world's biggest companies. And today we're talking about none other than Pavel Durov. Yes, you got that right. Founder of Telegram. So Pavel Durov is born in 1984. That is the 10th of October. At this very time, he is 41 years of age. So he's born in the Soviet Union, currently Russia. So when he was 4 years old after he was born, that is in 1988, his dad, Valery Durov, gets a job offer in Italy. So the family has to move to Italy. In Italy, it's a capitalist country compared to Soviet Union where they are living, which was a communist country. And by communism, I meant only the government could do business and the government was in control, meaning there was no freedom of choosing this brand. People had to line up for bread, like literally. People had to line up for bread. The children could only get toys from one make. There were no different brands in the Soviet Union, and that is the communism or communist country or communist type of way. So in Italy, when he was 4 years old, the Durovs moved to Italy. Yes, so in Italy is where they start experiencing the Western way of life, the free market system, or the capitalist way of doing things. Meaning there was freedom of choice, freedom of expression, there was complete freedom, and the Dorovs loved it, especially Pavel. So this is where he got the inspiration to build his platform, his future platform that we're going to talk about. Let me talk about his brother, Nikolai Durov. Nikolai, just like me. Nikolai was a great man, was a genius to me. He currently has 2 PhDs. When he was young, he won gold 3 times consecutively. I think 1990, 1991. Yeah. So he won gold 3 times at the International Mathematical Olympiad. You can just imagine. He was also featured on an Italian national TV for solving complex cubic equations. You can imagine at 13 years old solving complex cubic equations. He went on later in his life. He won silver 3 times and gold once at an international programming contest. So this guy is the brains that anyone would want in a tech company. Enough about Nikolai. In the 90s, the Soviet Union collapses. So the Durovs, his father Pavel, his father Valery gets an offer at the University of St. Petersburg to head a department, I think a department of literature. So he was a great scholar. So the Durovs have to go back to Russia. Now when they're going back, they go back with something very important, which is an IBM AT. So this IBM AT at that time it was like having a spaceship. In the present world, it's like parking a Bugatti in your parking lot or a Lamborghini. It was something big. Only the biggest or the wealthiest families could own this, or scholarly people like Valery could have the privilege of having a computer. This was in the 90s. So they go back to Russia. In Russia, it's a complete chaos. Everybody is scrambling for power, for gas, for oil. But Pavel, from the experience of Italy, the Western way of world, knew that the man with the best technology wins. So this is where the IBM AT is crucial. Nikolai and Pavel decide to teach themselves coding and programming, which is very, very key in this story because fast forward to 2006, and remember in the 2000s is where Putin got power. So 2006 fast forward when Pavel was 21 years of age, he's finishing campus. He had already been working on the VK platform. So he launches it with his brother, if I'm not wrong. And 2 years later, by 2008, they have surpassed 1 million users. So this is something big for Pavel. Actually, he was the only employee, he was the only designer, he was the programmer, and even, fun enough, in those age, he's the one who managed servers. If you tell me that, I would understand because I do it myself. But in the 2008, coding with no AI, designing, I don't think Figma was there, and doing all those stuff to build a startup by himself. This is a real man. Big up to him. So fast forward 2010, 11, they reached 100 million users on VK platform. It was called the Facebook of Russia. So with great power comes great responsibility. All heaven breaks loose when parliamentary elections are conducted in December and the citizens cry foul. So they dispute the elections, there were parliamentary elections, they say they were leaked. So protests being organized on the VK platform. So the government has to act because the country is in a complete chaos. There are protests everywhere. So what does the government do? Thinks about Pavel, the owner of VK. So they sent to him a letter from the Secret Service, Russian Secret Service. They sent him a letter to stop or to shut down the groups, the protest groups that were organizing protests in Russia. So Pavel thinks of it. A person who has been experienced to the Western world, a world full of freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. Would he really do that? Yes, you guessed that right. No. He declines to shut down the protests because he believes if he shut down those groups, those protest groups, the users would go to his competitors, which his main competitor was Facebook. And no founder would want that. He would really want to protect and retain his users, so he declines to shut down the protest groups inside VK. Later that evening, something crazy happens. Knock, knock. Who is there? Armed men arrive at his apartment house. Pavel is scared. He's very, very scared. Very, very scared. And I believe it's the reason he has invested a lot of his time in bodybuilding. If you look at him now, you won't joke with him, you won't knock knock anyhow at his apartment. So miraculously or luckily, the authorities leave. He was surprised. I think this was God to me. Aham. So this was the first wave. There were two waves. Then so we were that was December 2011. Fast forward 2 years later, December 2013. This is the thunder. So protests again. The protests are again from Ukrainians. Ukrainians are protesting against Putin. I think he was invading their nation or their land. So these protests are really, really wild compared to the first ones. And something that I forgot for the first protest, Pavel, to show users or to prove that he is not compromised and to show solidarity to his users, he go ahead and posts on Twitter the letter the Secret Service sent him and a picture of a dog sticking its tongue out. This was a clear sign of defiance. So fast forward back to 2013 December, Ukrainians are having protest against Putin. And again, what does the government do? The government sends a letter, but this time not to shut down the protest groups, but for demanding him to surrender user data of the organizers of those groups. This included information such as IP address, email addresses, phone numbers, and any personal identifying information to the users. Pavel sat and thought, this means if he surrenders this user data, the users might be arrested, detained, and even the worst could happen to them. So he thinks about his millions of users who are Ukrainians. Does he surrender their data that they have solely trusted him with? He doesn't. He thinks about the Western world. The Western world is where what he experienced in Italy was free of speech, freedom of speech, expression, and assembly. But this time, the government is really hard on him because by that time, the rules of Russia were you cannot defy a government order because if you own a business, because your business can be crippled. So this was in December 2013. So by January, VK had a stake of 12% in, not VK, Pavel had a stake of 12% in VK. So he decides to sell so that he can be able to rally against surrendering user data as just an employee which he was the CEO. So he sells his shares, 12% stake in VK for $300 million, and he starts championing for user privacy, freedom of speech, as outside the ownership of the company, so that the business cannot be crippled. I think that this was a strategic move, but also think it was frustrating for the government to have such rules and orders. So fast forward, 1st April, due to pressure and one big mistake he made, he surrenders, he submits a resignation letter to the board of VK. So the VK board, which was pro-Putin, acknowledged the letter. He tries to call back the letter. It's not going through. On the 16th of April, he go ahead and posts the letter that was sent to him to surrender user data, and again the picture of the dog sticking its tongue out. He receives another letter. I don't know if it was before or after he posted that letter by the prosecutor, demanding him to shut down the page of, I think his name was Alexei. Alexei was a key and big opposition leader in Russia against Putin. So now the board has to act because of his defiance. The board immediately fires him. They send him a letter of dismissal and they say they have accepted the 1st April resignation letter. So for VK, he thought because it was April's Fool's Day, he can recall the letter. But legally, he couldn't. So the board finds an opportunity to kick him out. So that was on the 21st of April. On the 22nd of April, VK couldn't stay any longer in Russia. So what does he do? He was almost being arrested, by the way. He stacks his 300 million in cash and decides to leave Russia and tells journalists he's never coming back. And something to note that while he's leaving Russia, he had already started working on the Telegram platform with his brother, Nikolai. And with the funds he had gotten from the sale of VK, I think it was quite easy for him to work on the platform. So he decides to go to, I think, some European country, which was Germany. But in Germany again, he's frustrated because he, remember Pavel doesn't have an HR, doesn't really believe in the ideology of having an HR. So for him, what Telegram does currently, it sets up contests to do something on the Telegram app. They get the best of the best who is able to implement it in their source code, which is open source, and they hire him. And they actually pay up to $1 million yearly for as salary before taxes. But now in the European nation, he can't do this. The European nation has, I think Germany has a rule whereby you must first hire internally. You must send out letters, post it in the newspaper, hire internally for you to be allowed to hire externally. So he was unable to get visas and permits for its international employees. So meaning that Germany wasn't an ideal place for the company. And he was looking for a neutral place and a place that didn't really have a political divide. And so Germany fell for was not the right choice. So he starts on a journey to look for a better place He tries Singapore. I think he tries, I don't know if he tried Italy once again, but now he thinks of San Francisco, United States of America. So he decides to tour San Francisco. I think this was around 2015, thereabout, because he settled for a country in 2017. So in San Francisco, he managed to meet Jack Dorsey, who was the owner and the founder of Twitter. They have a good conversation. It was at night. They talked till night. So something happens. Another wave or another thunder strikes him. When he's leaving the show with Jack Dorsey on the street in San Francisco, as he's tweeting about the great experience that he has had meeting Jack Dorsey, three men attack him. Three men taller than him attack him. And I think by this time, he had already started going to the gym, so he was physically strong. They struck his phone. There's a bit of a fight. There's blood poured. I think blood from the other guys. I think he was able to fight them off, and he was able to take back his phone and managed to flee. So he didn't think San Francisco could be such hostile. He thought San Francisco was where the best of the best are, and this is the best security that he could ever think of. So, and also when he's at his apartment in San Francisco, he gets a lot of attention. There's FBI, two FBIs now and then at his apartment asking him what he's doing. I hear there's allegations that the authorities wanted control of his platform. And also, one time, I think the government, I won't mention the government of where, they tried to poach his employee so that the employee could work for them secretly behind Pavel's back and install a backdoor in the Telegram platform so that the government could know what users are doing and get access to the platform. So he managed to figure this out. And this is why I think when you're hiring, you need to look beyond the skills. You need to look at the personal skills of a person, the integrity skills of a person, because this could be a really downfall for Telegram if the employee could have agreed. And I know he was offered lots of money, even more than $1 million, to install and develop the backdoor for them. So big up to that employee. I don't know his name. And yeah, so Pavel says that America is not really a politically neutral place for Telegram. And by this time, Telegram is having over 600 million users. This is 2016, 2015. So he decides to go to Dubai, the UAE. And Dubai to him is interesting and fun. First and foremost, the tax there isn't too much. I think the word to say is it is tax conducive. They don't have to pay a lot of taxes compared to the other countries. They can hire internationally. They can get visas and permits for the international employees. So yeah, he settles for Dubai. It's conducive. It's politically neutral. There's no intimidation. He has never had he has never had a situation where he's been attacked. I think it is a good hope for Telegram. So to fast forward in Telegram, 2020, there was the Capitol thing, I think it was the Capitol attack. So there's the Republicans and the Democrats. The Democrats sent him a letter telling him to surrender data of the organizers or the people who were around the Capitol when it was attacked. And they tell him if you don't surrender that data, you're in violation of the American Constitution. A few days later, another letter comes from the Republicans telling him if he surrenders data to the Democrats, he is in violation of the American Constitution. So he's confused which is which. And because of his deep love and deep passion for freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. He ignores the letters. But he has got, for example, during the COVID, they have got legitimate requests to do campaigns of sanitizing, wearing masks, which they have done. They have also got requests of pretty bad stuff happening on Telegram that they have been able to actually shut down and censor. And I mean, things that any decent human being wouldn't want to look at. And yeah, I think Pavel is really a great man with Nikolai. Currently, he's worth of, I think, 16 billion, or I think 18 billion. He's the 100% owner of Telegram. And this is something that I like about him. You see, when you're the owner, no one can sway you. And that's why there's a, the Telegram is what it is today. Because, and remember, Telegram has not been profitable until 2024. So this guy was actually funding Telegram by himself. And there was a time he ran into an issue with I think it was the American security something that deals with money, where he was launching a platform. I think it was a Bitcoin platform, but it was found that it was in violation of their rules. So he lost the case. He had to pay millions of dollars. It was a big strike to Telegram. So he had to figure out a way of how to make money with Telegram. That's why you can see right now there's Telegram Premium, which is quite fun. I saw you can also set wallpapers for either person, the one you're chatting with, or yourself. You can be able to customize the Telegram app icons. And also, aside from that, nowadays I think there are Telegram tokens. So, for example, if there's a big fight, you can buy tokens that represent either of the side. And I think you can also, there's also Telegram business. So, these guys were really pushed on how to make money because Pavel's money was drying. His rent million was drying, but he was the one who was responsible for his first years, I think, since 2014. Remember when he was leaving VK, he still had started working on Telegram. So 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 10 years plus, he has been the one who has been, I think 10 years, he's been the one who has been funding Telegram. I don't know if there were donations, might be, but I think this is a great story, a great inspiration to anyone, and also an inspiration for you to hit the gym, to be physically fit, so that if his phone was stolen, which I knew had the keys, had the encryption keys, and that could be a big blow to user data, to user privacy. So I think you being physically fit, and another thing, funny thing about Pavel, he doesn't walk around with Elon Musk style or Mark Zuckerberg security. By the time he was being arrested, there was a time he was arrested in Germany. I think this was in 2024, if I'm not wrong, for not for not complying to some government orders. He just had Vivian, his personal assistant, and one bodyguard. So he doesn't like to create a lot of attention. He doesn't like to pull a lot of people to his business. He's quite a cool guy. I know some way to live. And allow me to also mention that in the US, in San Francisco, the two main reasons that made him see that it was not a place to settle, it was not a home for Telegram, was the encounter with the three men and also the FBI attention that he was getting every now and then. It was really out of it wasn't a good, the instincts weren't right about America. And for Europe, the country they had settled for was Germany, Berlin. That was the next major headquarter for Telegram. Then they tried Singapore, and yeah, they tried Singapore and London. They tried London, but these European countries, they didn't really have a, they didn't want a good home for Telegram. Yeah, and also something worth noting is that Telegram spends $0 in advertisement. Their growth is purely organic. And you can't get organic growth this big because currently they have over 2 billion users. Daily they have like 2 million plus daily signups. You can't get this kind of growth if you really aren't a private privacy focused social media app. So I think they deserve it. They spend $0. And yeah, that's pretty much about the story of Telegram. Quite a difficult story. Not many could have survived, but Pavel does. We thank him for his resilience. So, if you really want to listen to such inspiring stories of great men behind biggest and best platforms out here, you better stick around, and I'll be really grateful for that. You can stick around by subscribing, by liking, and by commenting on this video. And allow me to also promote my own startups. I'm a tech founder, and specifically one special startup that is really into the political space, and we're actually looking for a neutral home. And I think there's no other place best for this other than Dubai. And this startup is called Maikura, which is a Swahili word for my vote. So basically, it's a remote election management and voting platform. We are soon developing an app. Currently, it's available as a web platform and myvotemykura.co.com. And the demo is available under vote.myvotemykura.co.com. So basically, it's a platform that enables a voter to validate, to authenticate, to actually vote, to verify their vote using a blockchain based verifiable voter paper detail. And actually, after the election, which is actually not where democracy stops, but actually where it starts, is rate the leaders. For example, through structured set of questions. For example, rate the performance of this leader in terms of delivery of public projects, rate their communication, such structured way to keep leaders accountable, which I refer to continuous accountability. So we are looking for a neutral home, and we are working on getting to Dubai through competitions, through grants, prizes, funding. Yeah, so you better check it out. It's really a cool platform that I've developed from the ground up, and I am happy about it. So yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. We currently have opinion polls that are ongoing, and thank you. So please stick around for more content like this. I know in the future I'm gonna sit around next to me with some of these great men, and I want you to be there with me in this journey. So thank you. Cheers.